Hello, everybody, and welcome to WordCast number 64. I got the number right the first time this time. And
that's because you checked first.
It's been a while since I've done that properly. So, anyway, welcome, everybody. We've got a lot of interesting news. Actually, I was worried it was going to turn out to be a week mostly about Facebook, but actually some pretty good PC news came out with Windows 10 updates and Lisa Su saying some cool stuff.
It kind of helps that we delayed it by a day.
It does. Now, I've still got a channel update video coming out soon that I still haven't done. That's going to talk a lot about what happened weeks ago, and well, actually a month and a half ago, and also talks about what happened just recently. But I will say the reason that we missed this wordcast, or the reason this one's a day late, just so anybody that's watching this initially knows,
it's my fault.
It's his fault. He had to work late, which is cool. He literally, when we say late, he literally like slept at his work. So I mean, he had to stay late. So that's why we're actually filming this on October 3rd, Wednesday, instead of we would normally film it on the 2nd of Tuesday.
Yeah.
So the editing is going to happen on Thursday, and the upload will happen on Friday. So instead of getting it cut out Friday, you guys will get the full thing, which you'll be watching, so I don't know why I'm saying that. But you guys will get cutouts on Monday, as usual, and probably a channel update on Saturday. So. Anyway, though, yeah, we're going to jump into some Oculus news first, though, because they did some interesting stuff. Now, you looked into this more than me.
Yes,
I'm
did.
excited for it, but, I mean, I've never been a huge fan of VR. You know, I've talked about that. I want to be. Maybe this will do it. Let's talk about it, because I'm actually interested in this.
Yeah. So we've got a few different product announcements. Ultimately, the most important one is the Oculus Quest. So this is...
Do they give you a Quest to get it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, yes, the Quest is give them money.
Oh, that's
specifically $400.
That's a pretty good quest.
Yeah.
Instead of go pick up the eggplants, you have to give them money. That's you know, I'd prefer that than the quest to pick up eggplants.
That sounds like microtransactions. So essentially what Oculus announced was a new category for their headsets. So they currently have the Vive, which is their like highest end headset.
Did you say Vive?
Yes, I did. The Rift.
The Oculus Vive. I like that.
The Rift, which is their highest end headset. They have the Go, which is their cheap-ish, like $200 portable headset that's meant for basic games and like 360-degree experiences, things like that.
Yeah.
The Quest is also $400, just like the Rift.
Just like the Rift is $400 now?
Yes.
Oh, but just standalone, right? Is that with the
$400 with the controllers?
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, I didn't even know it'd come down to that.
That's why I bought one.
Maybe I should buy one of those on Black Friday too.
Yeah. So this is $400. It's a complete standalone headset. Okay. No PC, no sensors.
Okay.
You can literally throw it in your backpack, take it to a friend's house, set up, play.
In your back pocket?
Yeah, in your back pocket. You don't need to set up a room scale experience by like making a map around it can detect where walls are.
So what's gonna happen when it doesn't, and you just like walk into the counter, the knife drawer, and the knife drawer falls out and cuts your leg off?
That would be very odd, because why are you playing in the kitchen?
Okay. So it wasn't the knife drawer; it was the knife rack.
Okay, back to this.
I'm sorry.
Because realistically, if you're playing VR, you should be aware of what's in the room that you're playing VR.
Before you put on the headset.
So what this does is it uses inside-out tracking, meaning rather than having sensors that track the headset and the controllers, there's cameras on the corners of the headset, and it tracks everything. So essentially, it's constantly making a map of where you are.
It goes full cross-eyed, basically, and then looks around. No, I mean, like the sensors are on the outside pointing opposite directions, right? Are they on the actual edge, or are they, like, angular?
They're on the corners.
Okay. So there's 4?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that. So.
There's 4 cameras doing all of that tracking. They're also using something called, it's essentially just a marketing term called Oculus Insight, which is essentially a new positional tracking software that is for really large-scale rooms. So think like if you're playing in a warehouse, you could actually theoretically have games designed for that.
Right,
and
that makes sense.
It would be able to know where it's at in space based on everything it can see.
Instead of playing laser tag with a laser gun and seeing the other person, you could have the other people look like monsters.
Yeah, so this is actually like...
This is actually really cool. VR, if it works as good as they claim it works,
even if
awesome.
It works just pretty okay.
Yeah, even if it's just good enough for basic room stuff.
Yeah. Because one of the things that I've always wanted to see pretty much since VR started coming up again was a VR laser tag arena. And what I would want is something where, while you may have set walls or some easily changeable stuff for in between matches, essentially you have just basic walls, and then you can use software to change the environment.
Right, exactly. And you know what would be a really funny thing to do is you could actually, people would have to not know, but you could put in fake barriers and stuff. And if they see them visually, chances are they're not going to touch them. That make sense? By that, I mean you could add in stuff, and assuming that they know ahead of time that essentially everything they're seeing wall-wise is real, none of them are going to run into the wall. Now, if they reach and feel it, they'll find out. Yeah. But I'm more so, I mean, I guess it could be... That could cause problems, potentially.
Especially if you were doing this as a business, you wouldn't want to risk, having a barrel that someone might lean on and fall over and injure themselves.
Okay,
the headset,
and that's true. But I more so meant not, objects that you would deal with in that sense, but smaller little things.
Yeah, and you could have bushes, trees.
Exactly.
Well, not trees, but you could have bushes, things like that. Which,
yes. That's more so what I meant.
That's ultimately what I would want. Is literally you just have basic walls and pillars.
And everything else is done with the software,
So I think that would be really cool. This also does come with touch controllers. They're slightly redesigned to be able to be tracked more easily for this headset. But the full touch controller functionality comes along with these.
Makes sense.
Graphics,
are the controllers very, very similar to the Rift controllers, or are they?
They're Rift controllers, just with the sensor moved. The ring around it is moved. That's pretty much the only change that I saw. We don't have any word on battery life. My guess is at most an hour or two of playtime.
Yeah, it's standalone, so it probably also depends on what game. Yeah. You could have lower graphics settings and it might last longer.
I don't think that you should play VR for more than 2 hours at a time.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
So 2 hours I'd be okay with. The graphics, from what we've heard from people at Oculus, is that they'll likely be on par with 360 and PS3 era.
Which is fine for something so cheap.
You have to think that you have, you don't need a PC for this.
Right, that's the thing, is
or PS4.
The Rift might be the same price, but you need so for a decent Rift experience, you need a pretty good PC.
For minimum, you need a 970.
Right, so you need a pretty decent PC for minimum.
Yes.
For decent playback, you need a decently powerful, pretty powerful PC. And you need God tier if you want the best experience on the Rift. And so there's a whole other cost that comes into play there, where your PC that you're investing into, just the box, needs to be $1,500 to get the best experience.
The Rift is ultimately a $400 display device.
Right, with controllers bundled.
Yes. Whereas the Quest is essentially a $400 VR console.
Now, the Rift doesn't come with any room scale sensors, or does it come with the two?
It comes with
left
two.
And right. Right, but you want a third, ideally.
Yes, for larger room scale stuff with the Rift, you do want
now,
three.
If you're sitting down and playing, two is fine.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're sitting down and playing, you only need the second one for the touch controllers.
Okay, that makes sense.
So essentially the way that the Oculus Rift ships is you get the main box with the headset and the one sensor.
Because how I would use it would be sitting down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'd want to buy one more sensor, realistically, or...
No, not for what you would use. So the way that it ships when you buy the bundle is it actually is just... They might have changed the packaging now, but when I got mine, it was literally you buy it for $400. It's 2 boxes. One is the Rift and the Rift headset, the Xbox controller, and the sensor. And then the other one is the touch controllers with a sensor. Because the touch controllers ship with a second sensor.
I see.
That's how you get the second.
And so now they're bundled as the $400, though. Because you used to be able to buy the touch controllers completely separate,
you
right?
You still can for people that don't already own them.
But they used to be an only separate thing, right? Okay. And wasn't the Rift $400 with just the Xbox controller sensor?
It started at $600.
Wow. Okay. So it might be something I'll consider if I can get it for $300.
Yeah. Oh, it goes on sale for that somewhat often.
Okay. I'll consider it.
But yeah, the Quest is essentially a console.
Which is fine.
Yeah. And what's cool about the Quest is if you look at what the most popular games are, I mean, you have Skyrim, and that sold pretty well because it's Skyrim.
I mean, Skyrim's one of the ideal games for VR anyway.
But outside of Skyrim, the most popular selling titles are not graphically intensive at all. No. I mean, you're looking at Beat Saber is the big one right now.
It's the experience that matters. Yeah. Graphics come later, just as they have with PC and console gaming. And
if you're not trying to make realistic graphics, you can immerse people at low graphic settings very well.
Yeah,
and
it's
ultimately
fine.
in VR, what matters most is not how good it looks; it's how well it immerses you.
Yeah, and the thing is too, right now at least, it's like VR. That's a pull away from real life, right? So.
For now.
It doesn't have to look pretty.
It'll eventually be
It'll
real
eventually
life.
be real life. But so now you essentially have these tiers where you have Oculus Go, which is for the normies to try and pull them into what is VR, you know.
Or for people that are just looking for like a good 360 video experience.
Yeah, the only problem with that is it's low res and 360 video. Sorry, I thought you were
Yes.
saying virtual theater.
No.
Virtual theater, realistic. It's like for a good virtual theater experience, we need higher res than what we have right now, even in the new Vive. But I tried virtual theater with Samsung's Gear VR stuff, and I mean it wasn't horrible for VR. It really wasn't that horrible of an experience, but watching like movies and stuff, I was like, this isn't something I'd actually do.
I feel like actually what we need more than higher res is to get the fuck away from pen tile displays.
Okay, that would also help a lot
because
that would
the PlayStation VR, the screen door effect is essentially non-existent compared to the higher resolution headsets, which you would think would have.
And I can attest to that. I can attest to that as well.
And then on top of that, text and stuff is so much more readable.
It is. Yeah, it's a pretty good experience.
I feel like for next gen VR headsets, at this point I kind of just expect they'll just up the resolution, keep it crappy pen tile. But I really hope we get RGB.
That would help a lot.
Yeah.
That would be useful.
So yeah, that about wraps up the Oculus Quest.
Now there's a few more things from Oculus though.
My second favorite thing that they talked about isn't even a VR headset. It's a very, 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 very expensive camera. We don't know how much, but for reference, this is a 3D 360 camera built by Red called the Manifold. It has 16 red helium 8K sensors.
So, here's the thing. How do you have a medium to record to? That is my concern. My concern isn't the cost. If you need something like this, you have the money.
Yeah.
But how do you record that? And in a sense where it can be stitched as a 360 video, right? Because there's no medium that can take 8K raw footage from 16 sensors. I'm sorry, they already use SATA SSDs for one sensor. Even the fastest PCIe NVMe SSDs, even as far as we know so far, the fastest 3D XPoint from Intel, although that's all controller limited now, so maybe 3D XPoint could do this in the future. But unless Red's had a huge breakthrough, no single medium is handling this. This has to be some kind of RAID system.
I almost wonder if they're essentially going to sell, like, you know how they have the Red, like, prepackaged SSDs?
The mags or whatever they call them, yeah.
If they're going to sell, like, a giant, like, cylinder SSD that's just a bunch of NVMe SSDs in RAID 0.
I mean, it could be. That would be the solution, right? Because you need to be getting something. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking somewhere in the realm of 20 gigabytes per second of recording. And so then the question is, how long can you record on this, right? Like, knowing the way Red likes to work, you'd want to have redundant cartridges so that you could swap one out when it's full and swap a new one in. So, I mean...
So, yeah, that's why you'd have a RAID 0 of 16 NVMe SSDs.
Like, all, 2 terabyte NVMe SSDs. Or something. There's something insane they'd have to do. And so my biggest question to this, being a storage nerd, is storage. Like, it's cool to have 360 video, but, hey, it's just really high-res 360 video. It'd be great for VR recording and stuff, but...
And then also, some of this is going to be... I think that they're going to use the higher resolution to just create better quality video for live streaming, like downsampling it. Because
yes.
we know that one of the other things that they talked about...
Live downsampling, 50 gigabytes a second or something.
One of the big things that they talked about during this was VR, specifically 360-degree cameras, being used to live stream sports games in VR.
Yes, which would be really awesome.
Yeah, and so what if, NBA is the first, some of the first events are going to be NBA games. What if, at an NBA game, they had a few of these and they just did some good downsampling to get the best quality 4K for the bitrate they could?
I mean, yeah.
Something
The question
like
is,
that.
then do we have headsets that can handle that kind of stuff, right? VR headsets.
I mean, not 4K, but, they've got...
See, for a proper 360-degree video feed though, that's really high res like that, I mean, we're probably talking your video's taking up 100 megabits a second or something like that.
It depends.
I mean, they
on
can do
YouTube,
compression
on YouTube, yes.
because it's literally the whole thing. But I guess you could
but
have
if they
it.
build out a proprietary software, then they could essentially have it render a bit outside so that when you start turning it's instant, you don't have that gap, because that would ultimately
Yeah, and then
make
it
people sick.
it loads out there, but you'd
Yes.
still need good bandwidth.
Oh, yeah.
Because so it might not be like 100 megabits a second consistent, but you might need those bursts of 100 or 200 to load that as you move, so
Yeah.
that is at you before you turn completely.
Yeah.
And,
And
then latency would affect that too. Of course, you'd get a black screen. It'd be really hard to do it right.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it'd be doable. And I like seeing VR being pushed forward. I don't really like seeing it being done by Facebook.
Well, the thing is
But-
that Valve and HTC are working on things they're just not ready to release.
Yeah, and knowing the way Valve works and has worked in the past is they attempt to release finished products and finished games and other stuff like that. It's the same reason like Source 2 is technically a thing now, but it's like it's still not really widely used. It's still got to be polished properly. And even though there's games that have been ported to it, they haven't really gone around like being like, whoa, look at our new engine.
Yeah.
Even though it could be some pretty big breakthroughs. We don't even really know yet. So
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me that is something they're not hyping up. They're not usually one to hype anything except Half-Life. So,
Yeah.
which that's because it'll never happen. So
And then, so speaking of
YouTube.
yeah, they finally announced YouTube VR is coming to the Oculus Go, which makes it useful,
Yeah.
I would say, at this point.
That right there adds a huge benefit
Yeah.
to
I don't know,
Oculus
unless you were playing the silly little VR games that you could play on a Samsung VR headset.
Yeah, at that
Why would you have bought
you were
that
better
before?
off
Yeah.
buying a Samsung phone, like 90% of people do. Not literally, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And then just getting a Gear VR for $100.
Yeah.
So.
And then the other thing that they announced was Rift Core 2.0. Core is their like software that you install. The most significant thing is the new Oculus Home
Yeah.
aspect. So it's now a much more customizable like home area, and you can have friends come over virtually in this home. And what's really cool,
Scary.
yeah.
It's scary.
But what's really cool is that you can have, similar to the Xbox 360 with Netflix a long time ago, back before they got rid of this feature, you can have a virtual theater of sorts, but it's not a theater, it's a living room.
Yeah.
But you can have friends just show up, and it's a shared TV, but it's not like just Netflix or just Hulu. It's literally live streaming a desktop, so you can have whatever you want. If you have a Plex or Envy server, if you want to watch live streams of torrents with like Popcorn Time or whatever that was, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just whatever's on your desktop. If you don't want to watch some personal videos, you can do that too.
So anyway, so I wanted to mention Oculus has said that they're planning to keep this tiering system going forward, where they have Go for the cheap budget, super mobile.
Yeah.
They have Quest for the middle ground, more console-like, and they have Rift for the high end.
Yeah.
I'm excited for what a new Rift might bring, but I'll probably buy the old one to test out VR.
Realistically, the new Rift is probably just going to be
a
higher
huge resolution bump. Yeah.
I think it's going to be.
Well, okay. Let's hope they go to RGB displays though.
Yes.
If they do that and then they have a resolution bump.
I would rather see 1600 with RGB than 4K without.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because as we've seen with the PlayStation VR, RGB makes more of a difference than higher res.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
So yeah, I think we're going to see higher resolution. I think we'll see the hardware necessary for the ability to use wireless adapters similar to the Vive.
Yeah, which would be really nice.
Especially since
users.
at least with the Vive adapter for wireless, it seems like it's actually good enough that it like doesn't make you sick,
Yeah.
which is a huge deal for latency. So.
It is.
And they've gotten it able to work in massive rooms as well. So you can have the Oculus Quest-like experience of a large room, but with a high-end VR headset on a high-end gaming rig.
Okay. Yeah. Which
you
is
just
like
need
super
a lot
cool.
of sensors.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
I mean, this is the high end area,
and-
right? This is
and-
the person that's dumping $2,000
and
on
with
their
the
PC
Vive,
first.
you don't need sensors plugging into USB ports, unlike the Rift, which is I think the biggest issue with the Rift sensors, and I hope that they change that, but I doubt they will.
Because the Rift sensors have to be plugged into USB ports. Whereas, how do the Vives communicate?
They send data to the headset communicates over USB. Much better design.
Okay, that actually makes a lot more sense
Yeah,
then.
so
Okay.
they just need power.
Yeah, and of course they also need a HDMI connection.
The headset does.
The headset does,
Or
right.
the wireless adapter, depending
Or
on
yeah. But does the wireless adapter also connect one USB port?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That's actually something I was just thinking of concern-wise is I'd have to get some adapters to connect another display to my desktop.
Yeah.
And then I would need that third GPU because I'm getting another display as well. And NVIDIA, thank you for limiting me to 4 displays despite having multi-stream support on...
Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, that about wraps up the...
VR arenas, you didn't mention that. Oh, no, you did mention that.
Oh,
Never mind.
no, I didn't mention the Star Wars. I forgot about that.
Oh.
There's a new Star Wars VR series. I think it's a game. They didn't really specify. But it's a 3-part series taking place in between Episode 3 and Rogue One, and it's focused on who else? Darth Vader, because who else do you talk about in that time period?
Well, aside from that, I mean, who else would you want to see in VR?
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Like, I'd be cool with a Yoda VR experience.
I'd be cool with a Yoda.
Although that would make you sick, because Yoda flips.
I'd love to just, punch Yoda in the face.
I mean, you get to as Darth Vader, maybe.
I like it. Play as Darth Vader, punch Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what do you scream? What are you supposed to scream when you punch Yoda?
I think that another really good one would be Darth Maul.
Darth Maul, yeah, definitely.
That one, though, you would need different controllers for. People have modified controllers to work for that. Mm-hmm. People have made some crazy stuff for VR controllers.
But you would need, definitely.
But...
Okay. Well, VR, interesting stuff happening. We'll report back if more news comes out.
Yeah, whenever Valve decides to release
do something.
Knuckles.
Yeah. Okay, so jumping into some AMD news here, guys. This is actually a pretty interesting one that kind of surprise dropped today that I'm personally really excited about. And of course, it's so it's not rumors. This is confirmed data, but of course, we don't have any, actual, information.
Essentially, AMD put out a press release saying they'll talk about stuff.
And CES basically put out... They put it out on CES, essentially, is what happened. AMD has their own, but
so
then...
there was 2 press releases that came out. One early this morning that was just on a standard press release site, and then the CES one.
And then there was CES, yeah. So most of the data I gathered was from the CES one, but some very interesting things said from Lisa Su. So first off, it is confirmed, and we kind of already knew this, Lisa Su is giving a keynote at CES 2019 on the 9th of January at 9 a.m. Pacific time, because that's where CES takes place. Wait, is CES Los Angeles or Las Vegas?
I think it's in LA. Or in another city in California.
Okay, well, I think it's Pacific time. Anyway, 9 a.m., whatever time, wherever CES is. I'm having trouble remembering for some reason. So yeah, Pacific time. We looked it up. Pacific time for 9 a.m. So anyway, very exciting. Lisa Su talking about stuff. We've all been excited about AMD in the PC world lately and what they are doing. So 7nm CPUs. We already knew that was coming. We're going to be seeing the Zen 2 architecture as far as we understand. Who knows when it'll actually be released, but we should be seeing a lot of information on it. But also, AMD is saying 7nm GPUs will be announced. So that's amazing. Now first... We already have 7nm Vega, but not for the gaming crowd and not really a big thing. Mm-hmm. But the understanding, according to the way AMD has worded this, along with what just makes sense, if they stick to the roadmap, and they have been sticking to the roadmap, we're going to see Navi. Finally. Could be really, really good. Realistically, I hope it's really good because right now is the ideal time for AMD to strike. Yeah. When all of NVIDIA's cards are super overpriced, AMD could drop in and be like, hey, it's 1080 Ti level performance for $450. No ray tracing, but who cares? That's not going to be a big thing for 2 more years. Mm-hmm. Here you go. Everybody's going to buy them. People are going to blow up about them. And the only people buying NVIDIA cards at that point, the only reason would be slightly more performance, up to, let's say, 30%, and ray tracing.
Yeah.
It'd be an amazing thing. The price to performance ratio would be incredible. Mm-hmm. And so let's hope Navi can actually meet that. And realistically, assuming Navi is just Vega, but more power efficient, and it will be because 7nm and slightly better performing, we've got that. This would be the new where the 1080 Ti, 1070 Ti falls.
Yeah.
This takes over.
I would love to see even more would be a $600 card with 2080 Ti performance with ray tracing.
Yeah, see, now that would be amazing. Now, who knows? Maybe they will do something with ray tracing, too.
My thing is, I have a feeling this launch will be what tells us if next-gen consoles are getting ray tracing or not. Because while it is a long shot...
That's a good point.
While it is a long shot,
if
it's
AMD
enough
can
of
do
a
it
cost
here,
benefit for Sony and Microsoft
yeah,
to be worth a loss of money, because if you lose a few $100 a console, but you save your developers hundreds of millions of dollars,
that's a big deal.
you don't sell hundreds of millions of consoles.
Right, exactly. Yeah, absolutely
So-
exciting. I really hope that Navi does good. It looks like it's kind of what AMD has hinted at over time of being their true next-gen stuff. We know there's been some more Polaris stuff coming out and whatnot, but if they can have Polaris on the low end and they can have Navi on the high end, that would be really, really, really cool. Vega might be dead. Who knows? Vega kind of showed us that AMD understands how to do architectural design, but they just didn't do a very good job for the gaming market.
Yeah.
So if they can fix those things for Navi, and 7 nanometer could be a huge deal, a huge help with the power consumption.
Yeah.
Which is, realistically, NVIDIA's 20 series isn't that much better in terms of power consumption. So this would be amazing if they could get power consumption close to matching like the 10 series. So now I wanted to read a quote from the CES press release. Quote, in 2019, AMD will catapult computer, gaming, and visualization technologies forward with the world's first 7-nanometer high-performance CPUs and GPUs, providing the power required to reach technology's next horizon, end quote.
That is what makes me think ray tracing might be a part of that.
Next horizon, right? Yeah. Now, of course, that could all just be marketing heap.
Yes.
But that does kind of hint at ray tracing. And, from my understanding, ray tracing would make a Horizon look pretty nice. And then they can rename this, because AMD likes to have horrible puns, as Horizon. HORYZEN.
No.
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 So that then they can also say that they have risen to the top. That one's already been used, and AMD stocks be rising. See, these ones can go on forever. They did this one on purpose.
It's so epic.
They did this one. I mean, really, our epic server processors, yeah. So now to jump into some camera news, which you found some interesting stuff here. There's been a lot recently, but...
Yeah, I mean, so Photokina, a big camera event, happened recently. We saw new cameras from Panasonic.
Photokina?
Sure. We saw new full-frame cameras from Panasonic. We saw, which we'll talk about more in a second, kind of. We saw, really cool medium-format cameras that are actually as small or smaller than a lot of full-frame cameras.
Which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, we're talking there is a full-frame camera coming out for $4,500, which sounds like a lot, but for medium format, sorry.
It's medium format? Not full frame?
There is a medium-format camera coming out.
Medium format's bigger than...
Full-frame.
Yeah.
There's a medium-format camera for $4,500, which is cheap for medium format, because a lot of medium format cameras are like $10,000.
And let me guess, it's basically the size of the sensor in terms of height.
It's the size of a Rebel.
Wow. Yeah, so that's about...
That's
just sensor, man. That's just sensor. Because, I mean, a full-frame sensor, we're looking at Right, medium.
Yeah.
Full frame's a little smaller, but yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's pretty crazy.
Wow is all I can say. That's a big chunk of silicon in your camera there.
Yeah.
Woo.
Other than that, Panasonic and Leica both announced new cameras and stuff, but ultimately, for me, the most interesting announcement from that event was the L-Mount Alliance.
Yes.
So, L-Mount has been around for a few years. It was started by Leica back in 2014.
Does Panasonic use L-Mount on anything?
No. So, let me explain all of this. Leica it was not an alliance. It was not open to anyone. It was just something that Leica had started using. Well, as time went on, Leica and Panasonic have their own partnerships for certain products. Panasonic and Sigma have their own partnerships for certain products.
Yeah.
Eventually, they all just got together and were like, what if we made L-Mount work on APS-C cameras and full-frame cameras as one lens, works on everything, and we just made it for all of our full-frame and APS-C products.
So Micro Four Thirds is still going to be
Micro Four Thirds.
Micro Four Thirds. Well, actually, oddly enough, despite how much I know about Micro Four Thirds as a platform, are all Micro Four Thirds lenses the same mounting system?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually somehow didn't know that.
Yeah, so you can buy a Sony Micro Four Thirds lens
and it just click
use
in.
Yeah. A lot of
okay.
people use like Panasonic ones on Sony cameras.
Which
things
makes
like
sense.
that.
Micro Four Thirds is also awesome. Realistically, I think if anybody's getting into like budget photography or budget videography, you should be looking at a Micro Four Thirds camera. That's what you should be doing. But
what's really cool about
for the higher end stuff,
Yeah, and
there's been no good standard, and that's why lenses are so expensive. You know, they can upcharge because you want the best of the best lens for this product. Well, you know, guess what? It's like $12,000.
Yeah. And what's really cool about this is because it works on APS-C and full frame,
Which is a surprising feat right there.
yeah,
by the
if
way.
you're starting out on APS-C, which is smaller, and then
then you
eventually you go to
move-
full frame for business or whatever,
Yeah, 'cause
all of
APS-C
your
is
lenses will
also-
just work.
Yeah, right, exactly. And APS-C is also a pretty decent starting sensor.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd say because of ecosystems, not because of sensor tech specifically, Micro Four Thirds would be a better start for videographers, whereas APS-C is a better start for photographers.
Yes.
Now, both can do both, obviously, but I mean, as a platform, Panasonic does so much with Micro Four Thirds as well as Sony that they have so many good video features like the GH5 and everything. So that's actually really awesome to see this though, because unified lens mounts is something I've wanted to see for a long time because it's kind of sucked for a while.
Yeah, it really has. So this is all in all just really cool. I can't wait to see more lenses come out for this, because right now we have mostly Leica lenses and then the like one or two Panasonic and Sigma lenses that were announced.
Yeah, right.
Just because it's so early on.
I hope Canon and others adopt this, because Canon does APS-C stuff
And full frame.
and so does Fujifilm. No,
So
Fujifilm might not do APS-C, but I know they
don't
do full frame.
expect Canon or Nikon to do it because they have their own lenses or
That's
lens
true.
mounts, and they want to keep making that profit, and they're stubborn and stupid.
And not only do they want to keep making that profit, but there is the support for older mounts. You know what I mean? Like older cameras, like, hey, you bought this super high-end $6,000 camera body, and it's going to work with our, lenses for 10 years, you know. I can understand the direction that they're thinking with that, maybe, because I've never really considered
But
Canon
also,
or Nikon
what would
like
stop them
bad.
from releasing the same camera with two different lens mounts?
But then you have a lot of tooling cost for that manufacturing there. A lot of tooling costs, because that's one of the biggest costs into manufacturing anything physical like that.
But if they designed it right, they could theoretically have everything else built out right. And
they could have
just-
adapters that they build for themselves perfectly. So they could have L mount, and then the camera ships with an adapter for their standard older mounts, lens mounts.
Or, I mean, what I was going to say, another option would be having the lenses ship with L mount, but the lenses ship with an adapter.
Okay, that actually makes more sense. But of course, then you can't use, because that's
It also depends on the design.
yeah,
of the
because you would want to push people towards L mount, so you wouldn't really want to use your proprietary mount on the camera body for new camera bodies. You'd want to use L mount.
That's true. Yeah.
But you also, of course, it's hard because you don't want to screw over the older camera owners.
Well, no. So L mount cameras,
Yeah.
L mount lenses, but the lenses ship with a adapter for.
Okay.
That's
okay.
what I'm saying.
That would actually probably make a lot of sense.
So
Okay.
all the existing people can just buy the lens.
And they're good to go.
Yes.
As long as it's a proper adapter. Adapters have been known to affect image quality, so that. But if they do it in house, maybe they could do it right.
Yeah.
Engineer it right, so that there's not much of a distance change, but some kind of adapter that pulls the lens in.
I also
further.
don't know enough about the mounts themselves to know if that would be viable, because if the mounts are of the wrong shape, that just won't work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So yeah. So now should we jump into the fun topic of the week?
Oh man. So let's go back to Facebook,
Facebook.
but not about VR.
But yeah, not about the good side of Facebook. So we all know that Facebook got badly hacked a while ago. It wasn't even really, can't even really call it hacking.
It was literally just abusing a policy.
It was
in
just
their
abusing
system.
a horrible policy in the system. So Facebook, of course, put out ads everywhere as, oh, we're serious about security now. Really touchy-feely ads that are like, oh, maybe I should consider Facebook again. Obviously, you shouldn't. There are other alternatives that are better. But anyway, Facebook said they've learned and they're going to get better at this. And, you'd think after going through court and all the other BS and the fines that they got and the amount of users deleting their accounts that they got and all this other fun stuff, you'd be like, oh, well, maybe they're going to learn from this horrible, horrible thing. They didn't learn anything.
Well,
And by that, I mean, what this tells me, because all right, as a company, when you have such a big security vulnerability, you need to go look at 100% of every other aspect of your business, security wise.
So let's real quick. I'll explain some more details in a second, but we'll just get it out of the way what it is for those that might not know. Facebook's essentially there was a way to compromise the functionality where you can view profiles as one of multiple accounts.
Yes.
And via that compromise, they were able to gain full token access to your account. So token access is what happens if you're already signed into Facebook and you go to another site that lets you sign in with Facebook.
Or if you check the Remember Me box, there's a token for that too.
So token access bypasses two-factor authentication.
And bypasses passwords. So what it is it's just when you click Remember Me, so you can just go to facebook.com on your browser and it goes to Facebook and logs you in. Yes. That's all token related. Yeah. So token access quite literally means they can log into your Facebook account.
Yeah, they can just they are in your account.
It's
any services that also connect to that account, so Tinder, Airbnb, just anything like that, which I'd say Tinder and Airbnb are probably two of the most important ones because knowing where people might be staying and knowing about that much about their personal lives, that's pretty
sketchy. And knowing about things like preferences of people is kind of sketchy on Tinder. There's really important information that people put on there, and there's a reason that most dating apps are designed in a way to keep that information hidden from people that are compatible with you, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not something you just want everybody to know generally, and so that's it's a really, really bad data leak. 50 million accounts that they claim, but of course,
so
you can't even track that.
So it's 50 million that they know of, 90 million potential.
Well, and I could be even higher in my thought because, okay, so you're in your Facebook account, and obviously you can hide certain information, but what a lot of users do, right, is they hide information publicly, but their friends can view it. So this one person might be able to, I got it, this one hacker got into one Facebook account, and then could have very easily scraped the data of all their 200 friends.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's where you get, maybe they're not going to get as much detail because you can block specific things. But that's really bad. So we're talking 50 to 90 million, as far as we understand, accounts that had the token access problem.
Yeah, supposedly there was 50 million accounts that were, 90 million accounts that were actually force logged out of everything.
Right.
Which means that those were just the accounts that they either know or suspect of being compromised directly by this.
Yes.
Not indirectly.
Right. And that's the indirect is what I'm more concerned about. Because let's just say for fun numbers, it was 100 million accounts and the average person has 200 people on their friends list. Because a lot of people just have super inflated friends lists. Yeah. Okay. So 200 times 100 million, right?
That's the entire Facebook platform.
That's Facebook. So at that point, quite literally, everything could be gone again. And Facebook's not going to learn from this either. So
for those that want to know a little bit more about this, we obviously don't know all the details, but now it's not like Facebook, had a bad policy or something that was, I would say, more easily catchable. This worked via 3 different compromises.
Yes.
So this is something that they had to chain together. It's like a very complex bug as far as we know.
If this was the initial thing, the other one had never happened, we could be a little more understanding, forgiving in terms of, you made a big mistake.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't ever expect any company to never get compromised.
Exactly.
And the fact that they had to go through 3 different things for me on this leads me to believe, obviously, we'll wait for Europe's investigation because something else we'll talk about in a second is they're facing a big investigation by the EU. But I could very easily see this just being something that any company could have theoretically have been affected by. It's very hard to...
I wouldn't say any company. Okay, so I think...
Any company that has token access at all.
Better security audits and stuff, though, would help with this sort of thing.
But we don't know how long this was going on.
So we don't know how long it was going on, but...
What if it was a week?
You couldn't scrape that much data in a week.
This is just accounts that were potentially compromised. This isn't because so one of the things about GDPR is that within 3 days of getting compromised, they have to release the maximum potential affected users.
Right. Okay, that's a good
point. So 90 million or 50
million. But knowing
million,
Facebook, 50 million is probably an undercut.
They would be facing a separate and very large fine for that. Ultimately, it's not So with GDPR, it's not how many people do you think got compromised. It's how many people do you think is the theoretical maximum.
Okay.
That got directly compromised.
That's a little different. Yeah. Okay.
And so Facebook and all these companies just essentially have to tell Europe, hey, this many people could have been affected. We still need to figure things out, but it's so that they can't hide things and kind of just wait until they want to release stuff.
Equifax.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Facebook is facing a potential $1.6 billion US fine because under the EU's rules of GDPR, if they find that Facebook was essentially if they find that it was a compromisation based
a compromisation.
Yes,
I like that. It's a good word. I was
saying it. Not so much on like a very complex, organization of hacks and things like that, but like an actual like just straight up like not doing their due diligence.
Idiocracy.
Yeah. Then they can face a fine of 4% of their last year's entire global earnings.
And you know what? That's perfectly fair. Mm-hmm. That's perfectly fair. The thing is, Facebook's not going to learn. And the issue here is, so we see security vulnerabilities and hacks and data leaks all the time. Mm-hmm. Your data put online is assumed not safe. If you're a user and you're smart, you assume it's not safe. That's how you do it. But there's a certain level of security problems that I go, why the hell was nobody pen testing token access?
They probably...
And if they were, I'm surprised they didn't find this. Mm-hmm. You need to hire better pen testers.
Yeah.
So...
Because ultimately what it comes down to with how they have to release these numbers is they could just be releasing the total numbers of anyone that ever used the View As feature within the time period that they know of potentially being compromised.
Okay, true.
Because they have to release the theoretical maximum, which means they probably just looked at how many accounts used this feature
and said that's possible.
Yes.
Okay, that's true. That's okay, good point. What I was getting at with my initial point though was I just feel like in a lot of cases there are better companies to store your data with. Mm-hmm. We look at you look at companies like Google and Apple and
I wouldn't say Apple.
In terms of security?
They're cloud services. I mean, look at the iCloud hacks that leaked tons of news.
Okay, that's a true point. But, okay, so let's take Apple out of that. Good point there.
They do a good job of trying to get as much security. On-device as you can so that they aren't liable for when they get hacked.
But I would say Amazon. Mm-hmm. Especially knowing they work for the CIA. They've got to have good security. Yeah. So, there are certain companies where it's like, I'm more comfortable storing my data with a company like that, despite how monolithic in size that they are and scary, versus Facebook. I feel like there's a little bit of trust there, where I feel like if Google had their accounts hacked, they would know quick, they would know how many, they would release those numbers right away, and they would figure out how to resolve it, and I'd have a feeling that it wouldn't be all-encompassing the way this is. It would be like, yeah, everybody's dates of birth got out. Or something more simplistic and segmented like that. Now, realistically, there are companies, too, that are big out there that we haven't heard of big hacks ever happening to. Mm. And, of course, it doesn't mean they can't, but Facebook is repeatedly showing bad security practices, and they have a long-term history of this. Not just the recent hacks. They've had a long-term history of not paying good attention to security. They don't take it in as a priority because they want to save a little bit of money, even though they have loads of it.
Realistically, what I would expect is that for Facebook to get to the position of someone like Google or Amazon, they'd probably need to rebuild Facebook from the ground up.
And that, you know what? They have the cash to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So do it. Do something to fix it. And realistically, I think my biggest complaint here with all the stuff going on with Facebook is why more people don't migrate to the other services that do exist, such as Google Plus and Twitter. Now, Twitter is different, but Google Plus has a lot of the similar features.
Because their friends aren't there.
Exactly. But if people could collectively do the right thing, right? You know what I'm saying? I think that would be an option, is to just abandon Facebook and Instagram and go to the better companies out there that treat your data with a little more respect. Mm-hmm. Whether that's Snapchat or Twitter or Google or whatever it is. Go do something else that has a better track record of this kind of information. I'm not saying your information's safe. You never assume your information online is safe. In fact, you shouldn't ever assume that your information on anything that's connected to the internet is safe.
Yeah.
I don't assume the internet on my computer is safe. The data on my computer is safe. Now, I hope it is. I do everything I can to make sure it is. But you assume that is gone. And obviously, you still should with any other place. But that's no excuse to just allow these Facebook hacks to slip by. I have a friend of mine who left Facebook for 2 weeks, got back on it, and he didn't even delete his account. He deactivated it. I'm not going to say his name or anything, but I was like, dude, you need to get over this. It's a literal addiction when you can't drop it for more than 2 weeks without, feeling anxious about it.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And being addicted to a specific service... being addicted to social media is one thing, but being addicted to a specific service of social media is a different thing.
Yeah. And speaking of not using Facebook accounts for a couple weeks, Facebook just made a change.
They did, right after the hack.
Extending their grace period for deleting accounts. So currently when you go to delete an account, it does not delete it for 14 days.
Okay, I want to actually interrupt there because I want to say it does not... You... can't get it back after 14 days.
Yes.
It doesn't guarantee deletion at the 14-day period. From my understanding, it puts it in the queue for deletion, basically.
Now, I believe in GDPR are certain requirements to speed that up.
Correct.
So,
and there is a truth to deleting a massive amount of data. It's not an easy thing to do. So.
But yeah, so essentially it goes from 14 days of potentially being able to recover that account.
Yeah.
To 30 days, meaning that you have more time to change your mind, which is what Facebook wants.
Which is what they want everybody to go delete your accounts and then be like, I kind of want to use Facebook again, and they get back on it.
Yeah.
Right? And 14 days is enough. You've got to be pretty serious if you're going to click that. But now 30 days gives people a really good try, so they can be like, #delete Facebook, and when all the popular bits of that dies down, they be like, I'm going to get my Facebook back.
Yeah.
And it's just like this kind of stuff. Now we're going to jump into yet another thing about Facebook. Another reason that you shouldn't trust them with your data. All companies abuse data for ads and stuff, right? Google does, but Google generally is very explicit. Like, this data is used for advertising.
Yeah.
Facebook's like, this data is used for two-factor authentication.
Yeah, so what we're talking about here, so if you choose to give Facebook your phone number when setting up your profile just for general use, obviously that's going to get used for ads because they use literally everything they have.
They do.
But they introduced two-factor authentication via SMS quite a while ago, and after some testing and whatnot, Gizmodo reported on this story that some researchers were able to demonstrate that Facebook was using information not specifically provided in order to target ads. And when this information was released, Facebook then confirmed that, yes, they were using your two-factor authentication phone numbers.
Not the one you put on your profile.
Correct. If you had it only listed for 2FA, they were still using it for advertisement purposes. Now,
I heard something, and I didn't read definitively that this was the case, but I heard from another podcaster or something. I don't remember who. Sorry, I'd give credit if I do. It might have been Level 1 Techs. I'm not sure. But I heard from somebody that if you put a fake phone number on your profile and then you set up a separate 2FA phone number, Facebook will basically figure out which one's the real phone number and use that one for advertising.
I mean, ultimately they know that if you're having a number for 2FA, it has
to be a real number. Exactly. And so, I mean, it's not like it'd be hard to figure that out, but I mean, this is sketchy. And this right here is yet another one of a million reasons why you shouldn't use a company that isn't good to their employees, isn't good to their customers, doesn't have good security practices, lies blatantly all the time, uses your data for way more nefarious stuff, manipulates adolescent brains.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of company
and
they are
it's ultimately
evil.
just dangerous for the entire planet.
It is.
Because of how little they're doing to secure it and how much influence it has.
Exactly. And I think that they're a bigger monopoly than things like Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon doesn't have control over what 2 billion people see and do and have a history of manipulating that information.
And news as well being a big one on Facebook.
But Facebook's literally got a history of they've done tests where they were able to successfully manipulate users' emotional response to stories based on how they ordered profiles and things like that.
But not only that, they were doing the testing a while back. It was reported. We reported on this one, I think, where they were taking teenagers and they were quite literally trying to show one set things that depressed you and another set that made you happy. And that's the kind of stuff, like, I mean, who knows? Maybe there were some kids that killed themselves because of that. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know if that was the end result of that, but that could have been the start of something horrible.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff where you don't support them. And the thing is, what scares me the most is the companies that are big and scary that everybody pretends aren't. Everybody but the nerds. Right? You've got a lot of people know Facebook's big, but they don't think of them as this evil monopoly, whereas a lot do with Amazon, because Amazon's taking over small business, and that's in your face blatant.
Yeah.
But the service you use every day, not quite as much. And it goes back to what I've told people before is, like Samsung. Nobody in America seems to understand how big Samsung is.
Yeah.
Nobody understands that they built the frickin' Burj Khalifa, and that a lot of your products that come from overseas are on ships built by Samsung. Most people don't know things like that. And those are the kind of companies that scare me more than the Googles and Apples and Amazons of this world, because those companies we pay attention to and the public seems to know they're horrible, but you don't hear people mentioning all this other stuff. And even the oil companies, there's sketchy stuff that happens with them, and a lot of that just gets brushed under. And Facebook is very much so one of those companies.
Yeah.
So now another fun thing related
to round
to
up the Facebook news, we saw some very, very high profile, very, very abrupt departures from Facebook. More specifically Instagram, more specifically the two people who made Instagram, have left the company abruptly. So Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger have left the company. Literally it came out of nowhere. Normally when Facebook loses a high profile executive, like when the WhatsApp founder left, they had planned statements, they had press releases, they had Mark Zuckerberg posting about like the good times they had together. This had nothing. People reached out after the reports came out that they were leaving. Facebook had no response. Literally this was out of nowhere, which means Facebook tried to force something on them probably.
That they didn't want. Yeah. And they could be under NDA even. Who knows? Right? And so this bugs me. And so now we have Facebook, who bought WhatsApp and bought Instagram, two other giant social platforms. And now they're just Facebook. There's no governing body in between Facebook and them.
So that was going to happen anyway with major tech acquisitions like this, where there is a promise of them remaining independent. That promise, with every company, Google does this, Amazon does, everyone does this. When they remain independent, they remain independent for a certain amount of years.
Exactly. I have never seen them permanently remain independent.
Because that would be just a bad business decision.
Yeah, why would you?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you get some other profits, but, other than making some money,
but if they
what's
start
the
losing money,
point?
then you can't fix that.
Exactly.
If you keep them independent. So, yeah, I mean, this is ultimately going to... Big changes are probably going to come to Instagram. We've already seen some testing going out. Some users are noticing where, essentially, currently with Instagram, they have the actual chronological feed now because people complained.
Yes.
Well, now what they're testing is so if you've noticed with Instagram now, it shows you when you're caught up for the last 2 days. Well, now the test is, so when you get to that point, there's two tabs. The default is recommended, which is the not chronological order.
Yeah.
And then there's the older post, which shows the chronological order. So it's defaulting back to that algorithm. Now they're giving you an easy way to view that.
But still.
The older should be the default. And the recommended should be the secondary.
Like what Twitter did. Where they would be like, tweet, chronological order. In case you missed it, big X, do you want to see this, yes or no?
But it's not, do you want to see this, yes or no?
Do you want to see this as frequently?
Which doesn't work.
It doesn't work?
In my opinion.
Oh, I've seen it work. I think it works.
Oh. But they did add an option recently to completely.
Which is cool too.
Yeah.
But even I actually kind of like the, what if I change my mind on it, it coming back once in a while to remind me that it exists. But also that section's usually not huge. It's a section of 10 or 15 tweets, and then you keep going to chronological tweets. Yeah. And that's a acceptable way to do it, because there is a truth to, sometimes an algorithmic-based system does work. It can make sense. And Google's done it. In fact, I think Google Plus has done a remarkably good job of doing an auto algorithmic-based feed.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have the option for chronological, especially on something that was originally chronological. And... yeah, so now they're kind of trying to push that away too, because they want to be able to manipulate children's brains again. That's what this comes down to. And I mean, that's an example, but that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it comes down to ad dollars more than anything else.
That too. Which, by the way, sorry, go ahead.
Them being able to choose the order of your posts, and them having a history of manipulating those posts means they could insert ads in between two better posts.
They
can do a lot of things like that that are designed to increase the amount of clicks and sales that they get through those ads, which makes them more money.
And another thing to point out too is the ad influx on Instagram has gotten huge. I don't know if you've noticed.
I noticed
it's
the
like
same
every
ratio.
2 posts.
Oh, it's not like that.
Oh, mine's gotten really bad. Really bad. I don't know why. Mine was semi-acceptable, but I'm at a point now. Are you looking right now to see?
Yeah, I'm checking.
Yeah, I'm at a point now where I'm like, geez, there's so many ads. I don't even want to use it anymore. And it's been frustrating experience, honestly. And I'm about ready to drop Instagram as well and just get away from
So I got
Facebook
one
as a
after the
company.
first 3, and then not one for another 5.
Okay.
And then not one for another 5.
Okay, mine seem more frequent than that. I don't know. I don't know.
There's one really close to the top every time, so it might just be that you're opening it, scrolling down a few to look at the recent posts, closing it.
It could be. That could be what's going on. I don't know, because I don't really pay close attention to it either.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't. Social media, if I'm going to be doing social things, it's going to be in a more community-based system like Reddit or Google+. But still,
All right.
fun stuff, basically, with
Sure.
Facebook. More reasons to not use any product owned by them.
Yeah.
And I just want to give a big thanks to Snapchat owners for not letting Facebook buy you. Good on you. Good on you. That's a much better long-term play.
Maybe. I mean,
As long as you don't go under.
Instagram did steal all of their features pretty much.
Which is sucky.
Yeah.
But I still think as long as you and your employees, have good severance packages if you do go under someday, good on you for doing the better thing, the right thing for the world.
Yeah.
Because Snapchat has remained very good in terms of, as far as we know, in terms of security and in terms of privacy. All right, guys, so now we're going to jump into kind of our slightly smaller topic section, but Windows 10, there was a pretty good update recently. Windows 10, October 2018 update, Windows 10 1809. It's actually easier to just say the number at this point. 1809. Now, you can get it today. I got it today on this machine here. I'm pretty happy with it. There is one caveat that I want to mention to everybody is apparently it's having some issues with Intel graphics in terms of the 6000 series and up. Not in terms of, breaking it, as far as I understand. I haven't read reports of that, but it does seem to cause battery life reduction and extended CPU usage for some reason, and I can kind of attest to that just since we've been sitting here. I've lost a little more battery than I would expect to, so you want to make sure you update to the latest Intel driver. I had already installed the update before I even read the news about this, so I'm going to update the driver now, but try and update your Intel graphics driver if you're on a 6th gen or up, just to make sure that you're good and golden to go on that front. But to jump into the features, there's actually some pretty interesting things. It's not a huge update. I was talking to somebody online, and I kind of agree. I don't really think it should be called a feature update. I feel like they're big presentation, big deal update, and there's not really that many major things. There's lots of little things.
That's been most of Microsoft updates. Even the major updates were Paint got redone.
There's been some extra stuff added in, like Timeline. Timeline was huge. As an example.
I still don't use it.
I know you still don't use it. I think Timeline was a great idea. I don't use it either for several reasons, but I think it's a great idea, and they can expand on that in the future. But to give you guys a fairly quick rundown of the features, File Explorer has a dark theme. We knew that was happening. Finally, it's beautiful. I love it. It seems to be completely enabled by, or not. It's not enabled by default. It's enabled by default if you have the Windows dark theme turned on, as far as I understand. Then it automatically is, because I have Windows dark theme. Got the update. File Explorer was dark themed. So another feature, they added a safe removal feature for eGPUs. I don't fully understand how this works, but from what I gathered, it basically gives you a list of programs that are using your external GPU.
I think it's exactly like safe removal of flash drives.
Yeah, I think it gives you a better warning, I would hope, that it's going to close these applications that are running on the GPU. But
it's probably you click safe removal and it's here's what's running. We're going to close this.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And then it can close the applications. I would love it if they could do a suspension system where they move all the data to RAM somehow and then move it back. If you add a new you plug a GPU back in, I don't know.
I doubt that would work.
That's something that would be really tough to do properly, because you'd have to move it from VRAM to VRAM, and so there's a lot of weird complications that come along with that.
And then what happens if you move it from a AMD graphics card to an NVIDIA graphics card?
Yeah, there's complications.
Or an NVIDIA graphics card to Blackmagic's external GPU thing.
That's a good point. Yeah, so that'd be hard to do, but still, it's cool to have this feature. Of course, realistically, you should still shut down and remove an eGPU for now. A lot of times it'll still cause a blue screen. But at least they have this now, which hopefully will prevent blue screens. But if you're still having to close most applications, I think in most situations, you're better off just restarting.
Especially if you have an SSD-based laptop, which you would if you were
using an eGPU dock.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, why would you have pretty much anything running on your internal graphics if you're using an eGPU? Now, for eGPUs for desktop, that could be a little different, But, so the cloud clipboard is now a thing. I haven't used it yet, but it could be really useful as long as it's secure. My concern is, we have 6 months from now, everybody's passwords are leaked to be in a Microsoft cloud clipboard. But, of course, the thing about that is if you're using good enough passwords, just a random password flowing around without knowing what account it connects to, it'd be really hard to use that as an attack vector, especially if you have randomized passwords like I do, then it just looks like random garbage.
Safe in cloud.
There you go, yeah. So, Cloud Clipboard, though, I think it's a good idea, and I'm excited to see that because it could be very useful. So then we have Storage Sense. Now, we mentioned this a little bit in another podcast. I think it was actually one that never got published, though. So, Storage Sense can now automatically move files in and out of OneDrive and off your computer, which is the special new thing there. And the idea really behind Storage Sense and the whole Storage Sense system, and I think it actually works pretty remarkably well, is helping consumers that are buying laptops with 256 gig SSDs, smaller drives to save money because SSDs are basically the standard at this point, but they're, a terabyte SSD is not the standard at this point. To help them save space, they want to automatically make it so that consumers don't even have to pay attention to it. Files are cleaned up, things are moved around, recycle bins emptied, and now what they're even doing is as you're running out of space, they'll move files that aren't used very commonly to an online-only mode where they're only stored on Microsoft servers through your OneDrive
And then
account.
you'll start getting notifications to buy more OneDrive space, just like Apple and Google do for their cloud storage.
Yes, now that would probably happen, but with the amount you get free, this could help a decent amount. So I still think it's a good feature. Storage Sense has a lot of other stuff built in, and if you go into some of the more advanced options, I actually use it a lot and really like Storage Sense and what it's capable of doing. Just for basic system cleanup is really nice. Never having to worry about emptying the recycle bin or cleaning up your downloads folder, as an example, because it does that for you, is really cool. Another welcome feature, sound device settings are now moved into the actual settings app of Windows 10 rather than the old legacy Windows 7 looking app. I'm excited. Okay, I haven't actually even checked that out, so let's see what that looks like right.
I hope if you clicked on sound, not...
Let's see. Watch it go to the same... Okay, so it must be a different...
You're not on the sound devices, are you?
No, I'm not. Let's go to recording. Okay, see, it's still here, but I bet you they have the option in settings.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's it right there. That's it. Manage sound devices is an option within sound settings that allows you to manage your input devices, disable and re-enable them. Oh, this is really cool. Check this out, too. It's actually got the way disabled is now. Instead of just hiding them, it shows a separate list. These are the ones that are disabled. That's really useful.
Yeah, because I don't have that.
You don't have that. Okay, so that's what was added. That is really nice, actually. I like that. That's a good feature. Because the settings app is really pretty. It's just a matter of moving things over to it in a not intrusive way and not messing with the legacy way to do things. I think is really important, and Microsoft's doing a good job, and slowly they'll get rid of the legacy stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, so there's some new HDR settings. I'm not even reading into them in detail. Basically, I think Microsoft's trying to improve the HDR experience on PC because it's horrible right now.
Microsoft, you've got it going so well on Xbox.
It's so hard with PC for a huge pile of reasons, but you guys need to put more effort into it because realistically, I have an HDR display. I didn't buy it for the purpose of HDR because I know how bad HDR is on Windows, but I literally can't use HDR because it's so inconsistently horrible. It just causes problems constantly. Sometimes games crash. Sometimes games won't launch. Sometimes games look horrible if they don't support HDR. Sometimes they look fine. Sometimes the desktop looks good. Sometimes it looks horrible. Videos sometimes look great. Sometimes they look horrible. I played HDR video through YouTube with HDR enabled on display, and it looked flat like garbage. But then I turned HDR off and back on, and it looked great.
For some reason, they're doing a terrible job at tone mapping.
That's what it is. And maybe that's related to how convoluted HDR displays are at this point. There may be a problem. Not tone mapping, but I think something that adds into it is when you have HDR-enabled displays that are 300 nits, like mine is, which I think the peak brightness must be way higher because that thing looks pretty.
When you tone map, though, the brightness shouldn't matter.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
From my understanding...
And it's not color depth.
If their tone mapping was working correctly, it would just work. Because, if you load a YouTube video in HDR on a non-HDR display, YouTube does the tone mapping.
Right.
And it just works.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But it's when it tries to load an HDR, essentially, for whatever reason, when HDR is enabled in Windows, and you try to load a YouTube video that's not HDR, it doesn't do the tone mapping properly because it's not YouTube handling the tone mapping.
Okay, that's that's what it is. Because like I've played Destiny 2 with HDR enabled on my HDR enabled display. It's not a super high end in terms of the HDR aspect. I don't know what the peak brightness is. There's not a lot of information on this panel, but it does have a 350 nits consistent brightness as far as I understand, which consistent brightness that's actually pretty decent. But Destiny 2, when I got HDR looking good and working good and not crashing, was actually one of the most beautiful and immersive gaming experiences I've ever had. And that combined with something like ray tracing, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Destiny looked amazing, but I still have it disabled because it's so bad I can't play it.
So what you're saying is consoles are better. I don't have issues with HDR.
So Windows is trying to
Spider-Man looks amazing in HDR.
I hate you. So isn't your TV edge lit?
I don't think so.
Oh. Okay. I've seen edge lit HDR TVs and it makes me want to puke.
Yeah.
There was one I saw. The edge lighting was such a big section of the display. There was a loading circle.
This is one of Arting's highest rated HDR TVs for gaming.
Never mind that. Because there was a loading circle in this one, right in between two zones in the center of the display. Because they didn't put a zone in the center, they put two zones with a line down the center. So you see this loading symbol turn, and you literally just see chunks of the screen this wide flashing. And I'm just like, that looks so bad. Anyway. Yeah. Woo, that was bad. But anyway, so they also, Windows Update is now going to be attempting to use machine learning to figure out when to install updates. Could be useful, could lead towards good things. I doubt it will be great right now. Now, this is actually included in the update. But, cool. I mean, they already try to do it when you're not using your PC. Hopefully they do a better job with this regarding laptops like shutdown times and boot up times.
So earlier today, before we started recording, I quite literally selected for it to do it tomorrow, and it just did it, anyway.
The update right here. Anyway.
Like 20 minutes later.
Yep. Windows Update.
Excuse me?
I don't like you guys pushing that. That's one complaint I have about Microsoft of recent. So now so the Your Phone app has been pushed out properly now, and I've been trying to use it, but every time I try to use it, it tells me that I need to connect my device, which is clearly connected. Some weird stuff going on there. I don't know.
Connect your device.
You know what? Let me open it up right now.
Connect your device. No, don't do it.
Let's see if the sign-in works. I'm trying right now. See? No, your phone needs the latest app, which I have installed. But there's like another way there's another app you can open that seems to do it better. I don't know. It's really weird and convoluted, so hopefully Microsoft fixes that because I don't know what's going on there. But you should, in theory, be able to use SMS from your PC. You should still use Pulse anyway. But you can also pull photos and stuff like that from your phone off of it, recent photos, which is actually a nice feature. There's a lot of times I take a picture with my phone and I'd like to transfer it, and instead of waiting for it to appear on Google Photos and downloading it, I'd like to just click, so that'd be nice. So you can now, let's see, Notepad got some well-needed upgrades. There's zooming in and out, and just some other various features. Nothing major, but kind of funny they were considering getting rid of Notepad, and now they're adding features to it. I'm fine with it, though. You can now change the size of text without actually changing all of Windows scaling. Now, I haven't tried this, but as far as I understand, it doesn't, so you've got make everything bigger here, or you've got make text bigger. So the text slider is separate from Windows scaling. So you cannot scale, but still get the bigger text. And that's really useful for a lot of reasons, especially on high-res laptop displays, is if you don't mind having the small taskbar and stuff, then you have less formatting issues with other apps. Because you're not scaling, you're just adjusting text. I don't know how it adjusts text in other apps, though. Yeah. That's the question.
And also, why the hell can't Microsoft detect size of the display and then have a default text scaling?
So,
because
they do have size detection and default window scaling.
Yeah.
That is a thing. Like, for example, my display is pretty high res, and Windows recommends 100%.
Yeah.
And my 4K display at 27 inches recommends 150%, which is actually about where it should be. Now, I leave it at 150, turn it down because Adobe doesn't like that for whatever reason. But, yeah, I agree. And if they can just do the text scaling, that might be a better option. Yeah. I'll play around with it a little bit more and maybe do a dedicated video on some of these features, because that could be potentially a huge feature because scaling's been so bad on Windows. Now, another fun thing. So a lot of people maybe don't even know this, but there's something called Windows Subsystem for Linux that you can enable and turn in the menu for turning Windows features on and off. And what that actually allows you to do is quite literally go to the Windows Store and install Linux on your Windows machine. Now, it's not a full GUI. It's Linux command line interface. But super awesome that you can do that because there's certain features, in particular things like wget commands to pull data, if you're a data hoarder like me, from sites and stuff. There's good reason for Linux to be installed, but having to do it through a VM is very convoluted. In this, you quite literally go in and you click a checkbox, you restart the machine, then you go to the Windows Store and tell it to download and install Linux Mint or Ubuntu.
Yeah.
But what they added with Windows Subsystem for Linux is you can now shift and right-click anywhere in File Explorer and click Open Linux Shell here. There's always was Open PowerShell here, or that's been there for a while. This is Open Linux Shell. So if you're going to do a wget into a specific folder, you open Linux Shell there, and then you do your wget to wherever you're pulling that data from. It pulls it into there. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then just miscellaneous stuff. There was actually a huge list of features. There was a big article by Windows Central, and I'll try and put them in the description or in the link to our site, which has all the links in there. I'll try and put them in there so you guys can read everything because there's too many changes to go over in a brief period of time. We've already done a lot. So
Yeah.
So some new Intel 10 nanometer news is another thing to jump into. This one was kind of fun. Did you read into this at all?
Nope.
So, Bluefin Research Partners, they're an investing company. I don't really know much about them, but as far as I understand, that's what they are. They say Intel is making significant strides on 10 nanometer production. Now, Intel stock has started having a little bit of trouble with concerns over 10 nanometer never coming out and having trouble keeping up with 14 nanometer capacity as is, and downgrading some of their chipsets to 22 nanometer. Not that on low-end chipsets it even matters, but they've been doing that. Now, what it looks like is we might have bulk production begin as soon as April, which is sooner than Intel's current roadmap. Of course, Intel's current roadmap is the sixth delay. I think actually the sixth delay since 10 nanometers roadmap started. So, of course, there is the inherent thing there is they kept delaying it, and now it's coming out early. There's actually sites that are using the term early, and I'm just like, please stop.
Yeah.
So this could be a play maybe to get more stock for Intel because their stock was having a little bit of trouble. Maybe, but maybe not.
They'd get hella fined if that was true.
They would. It'd be a big deal. So hopefully that's not the case. But
most likely who knows? Maybe they just figured out the biggest thing holding them up.
Yeah, if they overcame that and then they told somebody, poof, you know. And I would love to see Intel's 10 nanometer, and I have hopes that they're not having to restrict it enough that 7 nanometer beats it.
Yeah.
I hope it's on par with, or I hope it's not even on par. I hope it's better than 7 nanometer from TSMC. Otherwise, Intel, woof, you guys struggling.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of this could have also been them getting the EUV machines and stuff like that installed. But
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
And then in the last bit of news, this is something that I'm really happy with.
Me
ultimately, there was a big change announced for the naming of Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Now.
That sounds pretty weird, right?
That sounds weird. No, it's still called Wi-Fi. We promise.
So essentially what's happening is that rather than having, 802.11 whatever, they're just changing it to Wi-Fi and then a number. So Wi-Fi 4, 5, the upcoming one will be 6. So the current version right now is 802.11 AC, which will be Wi-Fi 5 going forward.
Now, I want to note, too, 802.11 is a standard for Wi-Fi in terms of nomenclature, in terms of the technology, so that would still exist and probably still be advertised on boxes even. But, for the generic consumer, this helps a lot.
So the plan, yes, certain, companies might start using this numbering scheme now, but ultimately the plan, from what I was reading, is that most manufacturers are going to start using this with Wi-Fi 6, which would be 802.11ax.
Yeah.
That way, the whole industry is making this move, or most of the industry is making this move at once.
And I think
it simplifies things for consumers. You say, "Hey, new Wi-Fi 6 is out. It's this much better than Wi-Fi 5 or or AC."
And all Wi-Fi receivers are compatible with older versions.
Yeah.
So realistically, nobody has to pay attention to it. This is going to help consumers a lot though, where they go, "Okay, I have this phone and it supports Wi-Fi 5, and I need to get a new Wi-Fi router. and I'm deciding between two routers. One's $100, one's $200. One's Wi-Fi 5, one's Wi-Fi 6. Let's play the Wi-Fi 5. You know, like it helps them line that up a lot better. Whereas 802.11 whatever is confusing. You don't know what is the better version, right? You don't know that AX is better than AC, that's better than N. Better than...
and even if you first we're just going like alphabetical order, like B, G, N. Oh wait, A. That's worse than B.
Yeah, right.
A C A X. What?
Yeah, it's confusing.
That's just word.
Yeah, and then you have it's just.
So I think that this is going to be the launch of Wi-Fi 6 devices is going to be a little weird to start, but then everything going forward is just going to be so much easier.
I'm glad they're doing this. Yeah. This is helpful to the consumers, and Wi-Fi is used more at this point.
Also, I like the new logo. It's the Wi-Fi symbol just with a little number in it.
It's pretty nice. Yeah. It's pretty nice. So I think this is a good move. Good on you, Wi-Fi Alliance. Good job.
It's going to be so much nicer for me when people are asking me about routers, and I can just be like, get the 6.
Yeah,
get the Wi-Fi
6, and you're going to be good to go. And a lot of times they won't even have to ask as much, which is better. The bigger number, as most consumers always assume.
Yeah.
So the bigger number is better.
It puts it in line with Bluetooth. It simplifies everything.
It does, yeah. And I mean, this is even simpler than Bluetooth, you know. So,
I mean, I bet you at some point we'll see point whatever. Like we might see if Halo ever actually comes around, we might see 6H or something like that.
Yeah, that
maybe not. I don't really know what the hell's going on with Halo. For those that don't know, it's an IoT focused thing that I'm really excited for because it's a big deal.
Well, IoT in general too. That's something that's been a big struggle for even fairly high end routers. Is when you add a bunch of IoT devices, it's like, oh, I've got like 40 more things connected to my network.
Yeah, and that's why I get why people don't like hubs, but that's why I like Zigbee and other things like that, because they can chain. It's a lot easier for the network to manage because the network's not managing it.
Right, and I have pretty high-end Wi-Fi here, right? And I know it could handle if I went like LIFX instead, where they were all on the Wi-Fi itself. But more mid-range routers are going to have a lot of trouble with that. Extended amounts of users, rather than just extended traffic, more users oftentimes causes more issues with routers that aren't enterprise level than capacity, right? And so I think this is a really good direction to go. And this is going to help, especially with smart devices where if you're wanting to trick out your whole home, right, you're looking at, let's say, 20 Echo devices because you want to cover the whole house and you have a decent sized house or whatever, right?
And you like sticking them in your
car and your microwave and so let's say we have 20 of those, so you're looking at 20 already, but then you have the front lock, the back lock, the garage lock, so now you're at 13. You've got your light hub, so you're at 14. You probably need 2 of those, so you're at 15. You might need 2 of those, so you're at 15. You've got your wireless garage door opener, so you're 16. All of a sudden
you've got blinds,
you've got your fridge, you've got all your smart connected you've got your smart connected microwave, your smart connected outlets. You've got just so much stuff. And then it starts to go, okay.
Heating, air quality monitors like this.
There you go. Yeah. So it's like, it actually wouldn't be that uncommon to see something in the realm of 40 to 50 devices connected to your Wi-Fi network from IoT exclusively, right? And we've seen how Wi-Fi networks can struggle with that. My network idles at like 22 devices on it. And then when I have LAN parties, we're like up to like 30-something. And I mean, mine handles it fine, but my older router would have really struggled with that. No, please.
Linus did a video on it.
Did Bitmain do this?
Linus made a video on it, too. It's so good. Bitmain announced the Ant router, which is a cryptocurrency mining router that doesn't actually, directly mine. The way that they advertise how much you get is literally just the standard rate of potentially winning a block. But based on the power of this, you have a chance. It's like, realistically, you won't get one for 100-something years.
So it's just a joke.
Yeah, it's literally just a scam, in my opinion.
It might not even be a scam. It might literally be a joke.
No, they're selling it.
I know. As maybe a joke.
That's a scam.
It could be a scam.
That's a nice way to put a scam. Yeah. So that's how we're going to end it.
Okay.
Go buy a Bitcoin mining router.
You need one. You definitely need one.
Oh, also they advertise it as being portable and ergonomic. It also doesn't have a switch built in.
Okay, so that's just trolling. I don't even think that's scamming. That's literally...
No, it's definitely a scam.
But they're blatantly trolling.
But it's also still a scam.
But this is to people that understand Bitcoin.
I bet you people are going to buy this that don't.
How much is it?
I don't know.
That's the thing. If it's $1,500...
It's not. There's no way. Well, We'll talk about it some other time.
Okay, anyway, that's really fun. All right, but yeah, thank you everybody for watching WordCast number 64. This was a fun one. Sorry about it being a day late, but stuff happens.
Yep.
So, life goes on. I've got some hopefully interesting videos coming up after that channel update gets out. But I'll talk about those more probably in that channel update. So anyway, guys, thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that little bell icon so that you actually get notifications for when we upload. That's something that YouTube is kind of bad about subscription-wise, so it'd be great if you guys do that. And then also, of course, links in the description down there. We've got links to our website, which has all of our source links in it. We've also got links to our social media, and we are going to be adding a link to our Discord channel, which I will be talking in more detail about on the upcoming channel update video that should be out hopefully Saturday midday sometime Pacific time this week. So tomorrow after you guys are seeing this. But that's kind of the plan from here on out, and look forward to hearing from all of you. So goodbye.